Holidays nale, adu namma GT Holidays da. South India's #1 travel brand.
Join the team. Which values you and your thoughts? Hiring now.
Manoj, Devashish, welcome to Galatta Plus. This is your third collaboration, and obviously everyone's going to ask you a question about it. My question is just this. Did you guys have a very cute Jab We Met moment? What was the first time you guys met? What was that moment like?
I don't clearly remember. Do you?
It was Sochanatha.
Sochanatha.
I remember.
Okay.
It was 2014 and I'd been trying to set up Bhosle for almost 3 years. I'd sent him the script via someone who was working on a Tamil film set where you were the villain.
Yes, that was, I was shooting for Surya's film.
Right.
Anjan.
Anjan. And he reverted in 12 hours.
Yeah.
It was a record. I didn't expect it.
But this was before Tandav.
Yeah, this was before Tanda.
Much
We tried
before
setting up Bhosle first.
Okay. When did the meeting happen?
So within 12 hours,
Okay.
I think Tripathi ji called me. He said, "Sir wants to meet you." So we met in Mukesh Chabra's office.
Right.
And he said, "You wrote this?" I'm like, "Did I do something wrong?" He said, "It's one of the finest scripts I've ever read. I'm on whatever the hell you need." And I hadn't had that kind of a conversation in my life till that day.
Great. So now, after 3 films, do you guys still feel the same way about each other, or are you ready to kind of...
I definitely feel about him the same thing. He must have, gotten disillusioned many times. That's beside the point.
I knew he's going to say something like that.
For me, usually what happens is that I don't watch my films. And when I watch it, I blame myself. I blame my director. I blame everyone for ruining my performance. And I saw the film. I didn't agree with it. And I didn't agree with it because I didn't like myself. So that's the disease I have.
This is which one?
I mean,
Joram.
Joram.
Okay.
So when I spoke to him, then I kept on telling my wife, "Yeah, again, in Gulmohar I'm bad. In Joram I'm bad. I don't know when I'm going to be satisfied." She said, "To be satisfied, don't watch your films, please, and don't eat my head."
But that's the sign, I think, of a relationship that's lasted the test of time. You have a graph of that sort, and we've managed to find some sort of a groove that Anupama Chopra calls our chemistry. So it's a chemistry, and chemistry it bubbles sometimes, it settles sometimes, it's all of that. On days of shoot also, I think we have days when we are going at each other, but we find a stability.
But he doesn't make easy films, right? So he doesn't make easy films. There are, kind of a mental or physical torture you're going through. And there is only one person to go to, is your director, whom you've been working for so long. And the rest of the cast and crew, you met them for the first time in the workshop.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and also you have to keep all your emotions to yourself, because you know that, they are looking up to you. So when I always try to find him in the corner and tell him that, "Boss, I'm going through this, help me." So, those are the kind of things you come to understand about each other when you work that closely.
Right.
With us, what has happened, Baradwaj, was that he came to me with Bhosle, but we happened to make Tandav first.
Yeah.
Because there was too much of a waiting period to find a producer. People used to come and they used to just, vanish. They used to call me for the project, and they used to disappear. So it was taking a lot of time. It was tasting every one of us. But I was completely sure that one day it will happen, no matter how old I am. Because however old I am going to be in life, I will always suit this character.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So that confidence was there. But meanwhile, he just called me up and he said that since we are waiting, why don't we just make this short film? And he sent it to me. I said, "Let's go ahead." That's how it started happening. And after that, it never stopped.
And I think you read Joram before we shot Bhosle.
Yeah, before we shot Bhosle.
Now, you just said there's only one person I can ask, and that's my director. Can you give me one example of, let's say, a question or a doubt that you had about the character that you're playing here?
Right.
And how did he clarify that for you?
There are two, 3 instances. I don't know how much he remembers because he had too many things to deal with. One was carrying the baby and running. I was on tenterhook because the moment you give me the baby, you are giving a huge responsibility to me. Apart from the performance of the character that he.
Apart from what you have to do.
What I have to do, and here's the baby. I have her in my hand or on my shoulder. I can't afford to make any kind of a slip. Okay, and then you have to perform also. And most of the time, babies are my weakness. That is why I don't watch any of the war zone footage on Twitter or I skip it, because it can really disturb me for days to come. Yet I had to be in the character and also handle the baby with care. That was the toughest thing, and I kept on telling him, "Yaar, let's use the dummy as much as possible." But Dev being Dev, in most of the crucial scenes, where he could manage to give me the dummy baby, he was not giving. But on the contrary, the dummy baby, once I realized that I'm feeling very heavy, I'm finding it very difficult to walk with this dummy. He said that dummy baby's weight is far greater than the real baby. And then once he said something about my the texture of my voice and the pitch of the voice. There, I really discussed in length with him, because that was a major part of my characterization. The voice, apart from the body language or the psychological conflict and trauma that this guy is going through, the major part was the voice.
Yeah.
And I was not ready to compromise on that. Once the sound person came to me and said, "Sir, can it be a little louder?" I said no. I was not ready to help anyone with that one. I was completely convinced that this is Dasru. I found him. I found him through my voice. Please don't, ask me to renegotiate.
Because, in characters like Bhosle and Dasru in Joram, there's very little by way of, the externals that I can give to a performer to play with.
Yeah.
Or most of it is the internals.
Most of
So,
it, yeah.
lot that you saw in Bhosle, you'd see a very similar approach to finding that character. It's all internal. And then in this case, he's on the run and it's internal.
Right.
That's almost impossible to crack.
Right. Now, Devashish, one thing that you've done consistently is, whether it's Aji or Bhosle or Joram, is that you are fascinated by the lives of the people who exist in the margins of society. That is, the people that we keep running into every day, but we almost don't notice them because they're invisible people. They're just like, they are the unspecial people. What would you say, or what draws you to these stories consistently?
The fact that we use words like margins and the fact that we presume that we are in some way at the center and we call ourselves the mainstream and we call people underprivileged and unspecial. Don't get me wrong. These are the things that cause me the most rage.
Yeah.
The fact that we decided these things, because we, in some ways, our privilege allows us to control these narratives, allows us to place ourselves front and center. And there's so much rage against that it's just like a mission that I will represent everyone but myself in the films I make.
Right. This other thing, which is that the form that you take is that of, let's loosely call it a genre thriller, right? Like I'm not, but specifically, but yeah, because Aji, Bhosle, you can, when you broadly categorize them, you would call them rape revenge thrillers. Where like in Joram, it's a man on the run thriller, which is a very classic Hollywood concept. So, but inside that, so the shell is that, but the core, the beating heart of it is this stuff that you're talking about, which is like the notion of the privilege versus the other thing and all that. Or in Joram, there's this very political idea that you put in the center of the movie, which I don't know if we should talk about or not. But what made you say, I'm going to talk about these things, but the shell is going to be this relatively, was it a mainstream kind of decision, or?
The politics that hopefully my films espouse, most of the time it's the people who believe these things who cluster and talk about it, and it never really goes outside of those echo chambers.
Right.
So somewhere, if we want to have dialogue with people who don't agree with us, we have to do it through our art. Because I'm not a policy maker, I'm not an activist, I can't go out there and really have dialogue on the field. If I have to do it through my art, I have to find ways to not compromise the politics, yet find ways to make that set of people I'm talking to wider and wider.
Right.
So genre and tropes they really help me make an access point, a portal through which the audience comes in.
Yeah.
Then I catch their hand and I'm like, okay, you're in. Now let's talk about these things.
Right. Because I was just thinking, watching your films, typically, when we saw the parallel cinema of the 80s, such a film would typically be a drama paced a certain way, different things. Whereas you've broken that completely.
Yeah.
And do you enjoy the fact that when you're acting, it's also this double zone, which is like partly like Joram, for instance, it's almost like a thriller.
Right.
But at the same time, you're also on the one hand, there is all this internal stuff that your character is going through, but on the other hand, you're running, you're in train compartments, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing all these external big things like a not James Bond, but maybe at least somebody else would, like a North by Northwest or something like that. Which is actually a reference I found in some review somewhere. I forget where.
The Edinburgh and the Sydney reviews
somewhere they compare it to North by Northwest. Yeah. So how is it acting in this clash of genre?
Yeah. I completely get what you're saying, but when you are approaching the same film, if it is directed by, say, Abhishek Chaubey, I'll definitely change my approach. Okay, but if it is being directed by Devashish Makhija, you know that he is looking for complete immersiveness.
Right.
Okay, I'm completely immersed. I'm there with the character, and there's a line between the actor and the character. Blurs a little bit. I know I try to reach there with his kind of directors, because I know that the thriller part of it is in the writing.
Right.
Okay. But Devashish is going to concentrate more on the faces, more on the internal side of it. He's more interested in interpersonal conflict or the conflict a particular character is going through. So if I'm doing action per se or running, I have to make sure that Dasru is running, not Manoj Bajpayee. I have to make sure, even if I'm running in a compartment with the baby in my hand, I have to make sure that my body language is of Dasru. So you go to that extent because you know that your director is Devashish Makhija. Okay, your director is not someone who's coming from middle of the road or say mainstream cinema, where actually they will demand a lot more swag, a lot more Manoj Bajpayee on the front. So with his kind of directors, I try to, push that side of Manoj Bajpayee completely, deep down somewhere where I can't recognize myself.
So in this mutual admiration society, I just want to ask you one question. I want you to tell me one moment of his that you really value in this film, a non-spoilery moment, obviously. And I want you to tell me one piece of direction that he gave you that was like really out of it came that you didn't expect.
I think it was in mine when we were shooting the climax that happens in the mine. I was confused. I was confused in that sequence where I am talking to Zishan and Smita. Zishan is standing outside and Smita is in the front seat. That was
just to clarify, Zishan's the cop who's
Zishan is the cop
who's
chasing you. Yeah. But he's a good cop, and so that was the time I didn't know, after realization, which Zishan's character makes me go through. After that, I didn't know how to respond to that. That was a moment. I didn't know how to perform that one. Though I was completely there, but Dasru, and in that confusion, Dasru, I just lost Dasru. Suddenly Manoj Bajpayee came out, because I didn't know how Dasru is going to respond to that very brief moment. That is one point where I feel that I should have done something else. I should have done this or that. But he came to me and said, and I spoke to him, and he said, nothing, sir. Just keep looking. Just keep looking. Because anything external will ruin it.
Also, sir, at that point you had told me that can you hold that moment for longer?
Yeah.
And then that gave me actually the rhythm of that scene.
Right.
I didn't have the rhythm as well because it's a close space and the film is culminating. three character arcs are culminating in a close space, it's a difficult one to crack.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, little things for people who are watching it, they may not understand how this actor was helped by one line, but I know what kind of problem I was going through at that point of time.
And
so there's this. It's a spoiler, yes, but not really a spoiler. There's this moment when Dasru reaches his world and he goes into the jungles looking for his people, and he finds the jungles cut. So already Dasru as a character had so many layers that there was this layer of in Dasru and in the film of the environment that I didn't overstate. I was like, we'll show cut trees and we'll show this place where the forest has become a timberland, and Dasru will not know what to say because he's come looking for something and that world doesn't exist anymore. But the day Manoj sir came on that set and the way he played that scene, I didn't need to focus on the externals, and he told me, he said, Dave, you didn't tell me this film is an environmental film also. I'm like, how many layers would you bring? And he brought that, and we just followed him. And I remember I broke down. I just came and sat with him on that tree stump and I cried.
Yeah, he cried.
it's almost like when he says bade bade ped hua karte the or something like that.
Yeah, he's talking to the baby.
Yeah, he's talking to the baby.
Yeah.
I just love that scene because it's like he has no one else to talk to this about because these people are not there, and it's only this child, probably the next generation, that he's giving this thing, and the child cannot understand anything, and it's very
Child is asleep.
This is beautiful. So Manoj, when one looks at a filmography, you get all these worthy of Manoj Bajpayee roles, right? It's like they come to you with a certain thing, but then occasionally you find a very mainstream film like a Veer Zara or a Baghi 2 or something like that. Why aren't there more? I mean, don't you want to have a little bit of fun between your Manoj Bajpayee movies?
That's a very good question, actually. In my career, I realized that in our industry, they were looking for certain kind of faces or certain kind of actors to be the lead guy. Okay? And they really didn't know what to do with this guy, who is neither a villain nor a hero. Okay? That's how we, look at our heroes or the villains here. And all the roles which were coming to me, they were not so fascinating or attractive for me. So I used to sit at home, literally doing nothing and waiting for roles to happen. Gangs of Wasseypur has given me that idea of really approaching my directors or looking out for them here and there. And to my luck, it has really helped me. If one Baghi 2 I'm part of, and it gives me a lot of respect, not only in terms of the publicity materials, but also in terms of the role. And I used to be treated very well on the set. But also, if it clicks, it will give me. It used to give me so much of strength. It used to empower me so much to go ahead and make one Bhosle or one Gali Guliyan. Then the producers were interested in investing into anything that I was doing at that point of time. And these films used to be very low budget. The producers, that they were expecting me to sacrifice a lot of my comfort, which I get automatically on a mainstream set. But here I was ready because here I'm getting a story and a character. And I'm trained for many years doing theatre to do those roles, be part of those kind of stories, work under these fantastic directors, and evolve as an actor and do complete justice to my ability. So I was enjoying this much more than anything that was being offered from mainstream.
Right.
Okay. But over the years, somewhere I started becoming very lucky, and then the OTT came, and on OTT, the offers were not too mainstream, but there was audience. And with the Family Man or so many, his Bhosle, so many films that
just
have been
this year alone, you've had Gulmohar, Sirf Ek Banda Kafi Hai,
and Joram.
Now
concluding the year with that. This is what I wanted to be part of. This is what I wanted to do. I almost quit dreaming about it. I almost thought it would never happen in my lifetime, but it is happening, and I'm very happy for all the actors who are in their 30s. not 20s, because in 30s really you start growing as an actor and evolving as an actor. In 20s you have too much of yourself, self-obsessed. But in 30s you start finding your core, and I'm happy for them. And there are directors like, this gentleman, they are also gaining so much of power. So I know that things are looking great, and they are going to remain like this at least for 5-10 years.
It's very surreal because we were just talking before the shoot, and we were talking about how even for directors,
Right.
they don't really bloom until they're in their 30s.
Right.
Because in your 20s, you really don't know much. So now you're saying the same thing about actors.
Yeah.
So now, Manoj, if you get like a Veer Zara, say,
Right.
just in theoretically speaking, would you just take it up just for the heck of it? Or would you say, no, now it doesn't make me very happy to do this kind of role?
For that kind of a guest appearance, it was a good role. It was a good role, and it came from none other than Yash Raj. Yashji.
Yeah.
And the way he went on about talking about my Pinjar performance, which I really think is one of my most favorite. And I really thought that this humongous director, he really understands the story, script, and performance. He really understands. You can't take him for granted just because he's been making mainstream films. And then one day he called me and he said, Manoj, just do me a favor. And he was such a big guy. Just do me this favor, do this role in Veer Zara. I don't see anyone but you. It's 3 days work, okay, and you'll be done. So if you want, just go ahead and read the scenes. If you really want to do it, just do it. But I would really love it if you say yes. Who would? I mean, so much of respect a director is successful, such a legend is giving to you. You are not left with any other choice but to say yes to it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So it depends, maybe not for the role, but for the director, I may say yes.
Right. So have you guys planned your next project together?
Not yet.
Joram needs to work. We want to, I think, take our partnership to the next level, if at all.
Yeah.
Right. And would you say that Joram is the most accessible of your films together in a way?
I personally think so. Bhosle was, I would say that it was meant for cinephiles till a point. And after that, the drama keeps coming. Okay. Tandav had both. It ends with that kind of a madness, and so people loved that. The music and the dancing, they loved it. But this one is far more accessible because of the inherent nature of it. It's a drama nature.
It's a thriller.
And whatever in between that is happening, that's director who's making his statement.
Right. When you take a subject like this, like you just said, it's far removed from you. How do you ensure that the truth of it is what's coming out and not what you imagine to be the truth? Obviously, some research goes into it. A lot of research goes into it, but beyond that, however much you research a life, you're still an outsider. And how do you make sure that you get inside as much as possible?
As much as possible are the keywords there, because to become that insider lens is not possible in my lifetime. Because all the people I have represented in my films, I don't belong to each of those bodies of people. So the attempt is always to surround myself when I'm researching or when I'm trying to create that material, is to surround myself with people from those worlds. Like even in Joram, almost all the actors in Jharkhand are tribals, and a lot of them are non-actors, and we workshopped all of them together. So just bring a lot of those elements into the film so that there will be times when I will be caught off guard. There will be times when my imagination might actually override the authenticity of the moment. But then there are people and then there are elements, and we are shooting in those places.
Yeah.
So those places also put checks and balances, because my imagination cannot run riot when I'm shooting actually in a tribal village.
Right.
Those spaces are talking to us as actors and as creators. So it's about putting a lot of those elements into the film and then sort of using those as touchstones at every point.
Right. So it would be very different if you recreated a village like that in Film City or something like that.
It would be Avatar.
Okay.
And the attempt here is to make a film hopefully closer in accessibility to Avatar, but to root it in the real world.
Right. So the thing is that real world cannot just come from production design alone.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It has to be
Yeah,
there.
we have to go into the real world. So, like the tribe in the film is fictitious. Tattoos, the jewelry, it's all fictitious, but it's derived from 3 or 4 tribes. It's sort of mixed and matched to create a fictitious tribe.
Right.
So that we are not appropriating a particular tribal identity, but then to take all of us and to go into the real world so that we are not taking too many liberties.
Right. Manoj, as an actor, do you feel any responsibility apart from giving this person life, psychological life, external like body language life? Do you feel any other kind of responsibility when you portray such roles?
Responsibility for me is, though you are working towards the vision of the director, but at the same time, I keep trying to, interpret it in my own way based on the politics of mine, based on the life experiences of mine. I want to add that to the director's vision. And that's, I think, is my responsibility. Because if director has trusted me with this role, just following his vision is not the thing. I have to take, as an actor, I have to take his vision forward and surprise him.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that becomes the responsibility of the.
So you leave the responsibility of the world to him,
Right.
so that you can, you can take on the responsibility of just bringing that character to
But
life.
also, Baradwaj, when we agree on a script, it also shows that somewhere we are on the same page about the politics of it. Okay. So maybe he would be a little far away from my belief, but we are very close. We are very close to agreeing on most of the things.
Yeah. So I met this actor long ago, and they said that they were offered a particular kind of role all the time, which is somebody from, the people, like to use a word that you don't like, underprivileged. And they said that after a point they started feeling really guilty because they'd finish the set, pretend to be cold or pretend to be like shivering or something like that, and then immediately go into a caravan and kind of thing.
Right.
And said that after a point that started really playing on them, because it was like there are people who are actually living like this. I'm doing play acting, going back into my caravan, and then I go abroad and receive all these awards and accolades. Has there been some kind of a thing like that?
No, I personally go through it all the time.
Okay.
Okay. Because most of the films that I have done, the independent films mainly, but on our set, that kind of caravan, those things, those was not there. But you feel that. You feel that, though we are portraying this world, these characters on the screen, but after the film is over and we are gone, we take the flight back to Bombay, our world of activities is going to be completely different. And it will take us completely away from these people. Okay. And sometimes what happens that if my director decides to have a person from or a non-actor from that place, and he's going to be with me, we are chit-chatting, we are trying to open him up, we are doing everything possible. I mean, in this film only, like the baby and the mother and the father, they were always there on the set. But right now, they are not part of my life.
Yeah.
Like similarly, Budhia Singh. But in Budhia Singh, this little boy, he was pampered, he was trained, he was, he was part of us, part of our lives. And suddenly, I'm not in touch with him. So, but we are storytellers.
That's the nature of
That's the nature of the job. We can help them as much as possible. Even the production takes up the responsibility of their education and, so many other things. But they can only provide those people the production from a distance. They can't be their part of their lives all over again. It's very difficult.
Right. So all the best for Joram, and thank you very much for answering maybe not tough questions, but places you know, that people usually don't touch while talking about films. So thank you for that.
Adit, thank you, Bhagwan. Such an honor. Always talking to you.
Holidays nale, adu namma GT Holidays da. South India's #1 travel brand.
Join the team. Which values you and your thoughts? Hiring now.